We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live, Boxing Ego Unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxing fans always go for the low-hanging fruit. Things that are obvious. Scary thing is people complaining, saying Dmitry Bivol was way too big for Canelo Alvarez just because he's at 175 pounds, the obvious, instead of 168. But as you can see here, although David Benavidez is at 168, Benavidez is bigger than Bivol, lending credence to what I told you guys before. Number one, it's not all about the man-made established, quote, weight classes. Since you have guys who pick and then fight at the lower weight classes than their true walk-around weight. And number two, Bivol is not the biggest light heavyweight. Boom. This is what I said, and I posted this picture. This is a graphic I made, and it's Benavidez who has the reach advantage, and Dmitry Bivol, who is clearly shorter. Let's get into this. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Now, this post clearly rubbed a lot of the Canelo Man fans the wrong way. I read some of the comments. It says Benavidez is taller, but Bivol is noticeably bigger. That's like saying Wilder is bigger than Brock Lesnar. I mean, what is this? What are you guys even talking about? You don't know what you are talking about. So he's comparing a wrestler to Deontay Wilder, but I don't know what I'm talking about, right? And in this video, since people want to play these games, and let's have at it. So for starters, Bivol has a different body type. That's what we're going to start with. Now, I've been covering boxing for several years, and you guys got to be careful. I'm just going to say this quick disclaimer before we get further into the video. Be careful where you get your information, because, again, I'm reading the comments, and there's a lot of know-it-alls, but they don't really know what they're truly talking about, right? They're just going, like the whole post, if you look at it, I said boxing fans always looking for the low-hanging fruit. They're looking at Bivol, and because he has a different body type, and they're suggesting that Bivol, because David Benavidez looks leaner or quote unquote skinnier, then he's not big. Look, someone says you make absolutely no point. Look at them side by side. You could tell Bivol is the bigger guy. Bivol was the most risk, blah, blah, blah. Right? But you guys have to understand body types. And I don't want to make this a fitness video, but the male bodies, they're classified in different body types, or body types is ectomorph, endomorph, and mesomorph, right? So different people wear weight differently. And then when you're looking at someone's body type, you got to look at their weight, how much they weigh, things like that. I stand by this. Dmitry Bivol, he has a different body type, so he looks more muscular and things like that. But that literally means nothing. You got guys like Mark Wahlberg, who looks jacked, but he stands at like 5'6", 5'7", and his average weight is about 185 pounds if you look it up. So you can have someone in the NBA who looks scrawny and looks lean, right? And that NBA player could weigh 230 pounds despite not looking like it and not looking jacked like Mark Wahlberg. But you have to, again, when we're assessing a man's weight, right, you have to factor in everything. Their height, you know, their stature, things like that. Like right here, some people would see this picture of Mark Wahlberg looking jacked, and based on how ripped and shredded, they're going to think that he weighs more than the guy on the right, Luka. But in actuality, Luka is like 6'7" and weighs 230 pounds or 230 plus, right? So again, this is a perfect example of a lot of people online. Be careful where you get your information, because they don't know what they talking about. So I'm going to spend the rest of this video kind of showing you that. So I've already showed you that David Benavidez, his reach is longer than Dmitry Bivol. The point of me even suggesting this and saying this is that Bivol is not a big light heavyweight. And the Canelo Chupapi Muñeños are having a very difficult time embracing this loss. Again, people are trying to correct me, but the point I'm making is David Benavidez is no little guy. He has a longer reach than Bivol. They definitely have different body types, but you can see from the picture on the screen that David Benavidez is clearly able to hold his own, and they're comparable. They're comparable. But the Canelo man fans, they don't know how to stomach the Canelo loss because they built him up. And really, the reason why I have to illustrate and show you guys these things is because, again, boxing fans go for the low-hanging fruit. Boxing fans, they're looking at Bivol like he's more muscular and saying, oh, he weighs something crazy different, which I'll stay tuned to the end of this video. You'll get to see more about David Benavidez. I've personally stood next to Dmitry Bivol and David Benavidez numerous times. So I know, and it's not always when they're fighting, right? Like Benavidez, he was at one of the fights I interviewed him was Edeslandi Lara versus Jared Hurd in Las Vegas. And he was there at the Hard Rock. I remember all of these things, and he wasn't on the card. So he wasn't even fighting. So again, you got people trying to correct me, Boxing Ego the Don, and they don't know what they're talking about. This picture shows you that Benavidez is a big dude. People are just looking at the shoulder width and the muscles of Bivol, thinking that he's big because he's jacked. But that's like saying that because someone, and this is what Canelo fans also do. That's like saying because Canelo has all the belts, that means he's automatically, in some cases, like if Errol Spence fights Terrence Crawford, the winner of that fight absolutely is the man in the welterweight division, right? Because of combined and collectively, we know those are the most dangerous guys right now that have proven the most head off. And if they face each other, then we get a conclusive result. With Canelo, I told you guys, Canelo did a lot of strategic things and waited for Benavidez to not have the belt, waited for Demetrius Andrade at 154 to lose his belt, things like that. So that's Canelo's story, no matter what. And I do believe he cherry-picked Dmitry Bivol. Bivol had not sent shockwaves through the boxing world. Like David Benavidez, if you look at his performances, super consistent. The guys that are lining up to fight him, the guys that have been in, the outcomes are looking the same. Kieron Davis, David Lemieux the other night. Anthony Durrell was a stoppage. Durrell never been stopped before either, right? Guys like Romer Angulo. Guys like Ronald Ellis, who spars with Canelo. All these guys met the same fate. He's on a win streak, still undefeated, etc. And really, the reason that I drew this comparison is because, one, I know Benavidez has worked with both Zordo Ramirez as well as Dmitry Bivol. And the point I'm making is the Canelo man fans are fresh out of excuses. Canelo is surrounded by danger, because if the fans are going to say, oh man, Canelo fought Bivol and he's way too big, well, guess what? Benavidez is big, and I'm going to show you just in a few seconds, in under a minute, how big Benavidez is. If you don't believe my testimony, like I've stood next to him, interviewed him, things like that. But since the know-it-alls online, they try to say, oh, Ego, you don't know what you're talking about, then we'll do it that way. Bivol is not the biggest light heavyweight. That's why for years, Bivol called out Canelo and said that he could make weight. But again, boxing fans and casuals and the Canelo man fans, they're looking that Bivol's in great shape. He's muscular and he has more of a stocky build than David Benavidez. And he does fight in a higher weight class. So they're relegating that and basically saying that, you know, Benavidez is way smaller and it's a whole different fight. And it is a different fight based on Bivol fights his own way and Benavidez fights his own way. But I'm trying to tell you guys from all of my experience, Benavidez is not small. And to all the haters and all the doubters that doubt my greatness, let's get into it. So Canelo weighed 174.4. That's the second heaviest of his career. You guys see that. All the people saying Canelo's too small, that wasn't even the highest weight that he's weighed in his whole career. So Canelo's not as tiny as you're saying. Dmitry Bivol, of course, weighed in at 174.6. So right then and there, this is deading the excuse that Canelo lost because he was far too little, because they both made weight the day before and they were within a few ounces of each other. Moving on. It says David Benavidez weighs in at 183.5. Now, that's the beautiful thing about David Benavidez being the WBC 3-time champion. The WBC has a 30-day and a 14-day WBC mandatory weigh-in, which means a paper trail. Like I said, I come with receipts. So 30 days before his fight, Benavidez weighed 183.5. 183.5 pounds. And this is him fighting at 168. Here you have David Benavidez's promoter, and Benavidez at his 30-day weigh-in for the Porky Medina Eliminator, where he did the Ultra Instinct combo, he weighed 182.7 at his 30-day weigh-in. And this was back in 2017, April to be exact. So David Benavidez consistently around the 30-day mark, that's consistently what he's weighing about. Let's keep going. Official 30-day weigh-in. Benavidez weighed in at 184 pounds. 184 pounds at his 30-day weigh-in in 2018. And then it says at his 30-day weigh-in check, David Benavidez 183.5 ahead of his September 28th bout. And this was the fight on the Errol Spence versus Sean Porter unification. And it was on that pay-per-view card. So consistently, I've proven that David Benavidez in his mandatory WBC weigh-in is weighing about 182 to 184 or 5 pounds, right? He doesn't fight at light heavyweight. Now, since Dmitry Bivol is the WBA and they do not have the same 30-day mandatory weigh-in rule, I don't have Bivol's 30-day weigh-in, so we have to look at what he's weighing on the actual night of the fight, because it's not my fault they don't have the same rule as the WBC. But you see, in 2017, Dmitry Bivol weighed 174.5, and his opponent outweighed him by a little bit at 175. So again, Bivol is not the biggest guy. He's in shape. He's a great fighter. He's a sharp fighter. But you guys keep saying that Bivol was so massive. So if you feel that about Dmitry Bivol, and I'm showing you the picture of them standing next to each other, and you can see that Benavidez, look at his legs. You can see he's bigger than Dmitry Bivol. Again, some people, they try to disprove me and debunk what I'm saying based on the fact that Bivol has a different build. But you can see, look at David Benavidez's forearms. Look at his legs. Just because he has a different body type doesn't mean he doesn't weigh as much, like I provided in the example earlier. Luka, he looks flatter and skinnier compared to Mark Wahlberg, but he outweighs him. You know, this is just common sense. But the Canelo man fans are having such a difficult time embracing Canelo's loss that they're looking for the light at the end of the tunnel. They're looking for some sort of silver lining. So they've been lying and saying that Dmitry Bivol was huge. And even if you felt he was huge, then you have to admit at least David Benavidez, he's taller. You can see it. I'm showing you on the screen. So he's taller, so he's at least equivalent. The other thing is this, is guys aren't fighting at their true walk around weight. So whatever he's sparring at, I've showed you David Benavidez's 30-day weigh-ins. So that's how I know a lot of these dudes don't know anything about boxing. They were trying to prove me wrong, but I dispelled what you're saying because I showed David Benavidez for the last several years, 2017, 18. We're all the way in 2022. He's consistently in the 180s, in 180 pounds, 180 to 185, consistently 30 days out. So when he's sparring against Dmitry Bivol, who knows how much he weighs? That's the nature of the beast. Because when people are doing their hard sparring, it's usually before the fight. You know, you want to have an 8, 10, 12 week camp for a major fight and mega star like a Canelo and Bivol preparing for a big fight, things like that. So we don't know what Bivol weighs and we don't know what David Benavidez weighs. But what we can tell physically is that David Benavidez is holding his own against a light heavyweight. And he appears bigger or at least very equivalent in terms of size. Now, another guy whose fights I've covered is this man that you see on the left side of your screen, Gilberto Zorro Ramirez, also out of Mexico. And I've covered several of his fights. I've stood next to him. I can vouch for him. He's a big dude, and you see him right next to his friend and frequent sparring partner, David Benavidez. And Benavidez is not looking tiny next to him. So look at right there. Look at David Benavidez. Like, this is when he was a bit bigger. So look at his stomach, you know, just look at it. Look at Zorro. Look how big he looks. So if the argument that Canelo is too small for Bivol, then even though these guys, one of them, Zorro Ramirez, is at 75 now, but even though Benavidez isn't at 175, a weight class, meaning he has to make 175, he's making 168, he's still a big dude. He's still, like, you can see the height, and he has punching power. And guess what? The two men you see on the screen, Mexican-American, Ecuadorian Benavidez, as well as Mexican fighter from Mexico, Zorro Ramirez, they're both way bigger than Canelo. If they're this big next to each other, Canelo, I've seen the sparring with Zorro Ramirez and Canelo from way back when. Canelo didn't get any taller. So this excuse that Canelo man fans have made, then he's going to have a lot of problems, because again, you're talking about two guys that are not only bigger, they have aggressive styles, and they look so far so good, look to be pretty durable as well. And then Benavidez was popping out singles and a crazy killer jab in his fight the other night with David Lemieux. So if we're going to say Bivol out of all these fighters is the least aggressive. And Bivol is also, I stand on it, he's not a big light heavyweight. If you look how big Benavidez and Zorro look right here, plus you couple the fact that they're taller than Bivol, they probably, if they were to step on the scale the day this picture was taken, they probably outweigh Bivol. You guys are trying to prove me wrong and talking about muscles, but you don't know what you talking about. People just, again, this was the whole premise of me posting. People look at the low-hanging fruit. They see a guy with muscles and think the guy is strong. Like, you sometimes think, oh, this guy can fight because he's muscular. That doesn't mean anything in the world of boxing. There's a lot of guys who look big, like bodybuilder type of guys, and Wilder looks a lot leaner and a lot skinnier, but Wilder would knock out any of those bodybuilders that you see. This is just basic boxing stuff. So again, I'm glad that people try to challenge what I put in my post. And to the people, if you know, you know. If you understood it, you understood it. Great. But I know what I'm talking about, and I'm pretty good with the eye test. Benavidez, Zorro Ramirez, I do believe that even though Zorro spent a career at 68 for the most part until recently, and even though Benavidez is still at 168, on any given day, they could probably outweigh Dmitry Bivol for sure. Now let's take a look at an older picture of Zorro Ramirez and David Benavidez. This was a little bit more recent, and you see how big they look. And here's an older picture of them. So Zorro Ramirez and David Benavidez are large guys, even though Benavidez is not fighting at 175. And that's why I had to use this time in this video, break it down, because people were trying to combat and rebuttal, trying to protect Canelo. So again, at the end of the day, if your whole premise is Bivol was way too big, then even though he's at a smaller weight, then even though he fights different than Bivol, you would have to be worried about the size of guys like Zorro Ramirez or David Benavidez or even Charlo as well, because all them guys are bigger than Canelo. So I maintain what I said. Canelo's in between a rock and a hard place, because he's at a point where he took a loss, not only a loss, but a bad loss. He's decided to move out of 160 and pursue guys at 168, 175, got so big-headed that him and Eddie Hearn were saying Canelo could move to cruiserweight and heavyweight and beat Usyk, beat Makabu. As soon as Canelo loses to Bivol, then the excuse train comes out. The gravy train of excuses come out saying how small and tiny that Canelo is. So if you're worried about Canelo, and the thing is, Canelo's short, but he's super muscular, compact in stature and ripped. And he's not that little. He didn't lose to Bivol based on being an inferior weight or being too small. this is something they're trying to pitch because the product of Canelo took a massive hit in losing in the fashion he did. So they're in a scramble to justify it. Again, like I said throughout this video, if your whole pretense is that Canelo was too small for Bivol, you're looking at him like he's the biggest light heavyweight. He's not, as I've showed you. These guys, I firmly believe that David Benavidez and Zurdo Ramirez are on any, like I said before, any given day, they're going to be an outweigh of Bivol because Bivol's in shape and compact and stuff like that. And he's shorter than both of these guys. I've showed you that throughout this video. So Canelo, he's going to be in a world of hurt fighting big men because he could have just stayed at 160 and fought Demetrius Andrade. You know, he could have fought Jermell Charlo, but he decided to move to the outer limits, and now he's going to be dwarfed by all these guys. And as far as Canelo's weight, he's not small. He weighs a lot. I heard stories of Canelo weighing 200 pounds back when he was at 154. In fact, take a look at this. Now wait till they get a load of me. The picture you see on the screen was Canelo in 2012 before the Josecito Lopez fight. Boom. Canelo weighed 167.2 versus Josecito Lopez. This was 30 days out. So even though the fight actually took place at 154 or 155, Canelo at his 30-day weigh-in 10 years ago, a decade ago, you see it on the screen, Canelo was weighing 167.2. So this is the world we live in modern boxing, where guys walk around weight is significantly higher. That's why when they do these WBC 30-day weigh-ins, you see they're coming down from a high weight. I mean, even guys like Errol Spence, he fights at 147, and he tells you in several podcasts after his accident that he got his weight up to 180 something pounds, 190 something pounds. And Errol Spence, he looks leaner than Canelo. Canelo has like no neck, big calves, big thighs, etc. And this is 10 years ago. Canelo Alvarez is weighing 167.2, 30 days before a Josecito Lopez fight. He fought Dmitry Bivol at 175, which is not that far. So if he's weighing almost 170 pounds 30 days out, then knowing what I know about boxing, it's very safe to say that Canelo, let's say 45 days out, would have been in the 170s. Because you think he started his camp at 167.2? If he's 30 days before his actual fight, so he's been training, doing road work, he was 20 something at the time, 20 years old. If he's weighing where he has to actually make weight and he's tapering down, that's how the process works, and he's weighing almost 170 pounds, 167.2, then who knows what he was weighing before. So all those rumors I was hearing about Canelo weighing close to 200 or over 200 back when he was at 54 definitely could be true. So stop with the excuses. Canelo didn't lose to Bivol because he was too small and he didn't weigh enough, because he almost weighed 170 pounds 10 years ago. Boom. And another reason we cannot make excuses for Canelo is his own team was claiming he could beat Usyk and Makhachev at either heavyweight 201 pounds or cruiserweight fights. So how can we now, when it doesn't work out and the cherry pick gone wrong with Bivol, and Bivol has something up his sleeve and has something for you, and you lose, now we're playing tiny violins and small violins, suggesting that Canelo is small. But I just showed you clips from articles 10 years ago, 2012, where Canelo weighed almost 170, almost what he had to weigh in for the Bivol fight. And I've showed you throughout this video, Bivol is shorter than Zurdo Ramirez. He's shorter than David Benavidez. And on any given day, those guys probably outweigh him. Bivol is clearly not. But there's a lot of people that were coming against Boxing Ego and the message and, trying to confuse you. And that's not what I'm going to stand for on my channel. Like half truths and mishaps. How about this? Next time David Benavidez and Dmitry Bivol spar, bring a scale in the gym and have them both stand on the scale that given day, and let's see who. So beg the fighters to, because I know what I'm talking about. I can see it. My eyes are, I got an eagle eye. They call me Ego with the eagle eye. So I know what I'm talking about. You got a guy who's taller, and Benavidez has had issue making weights in some of his fights. So I know making weight doesn't come easy. He told you in the Lemieux thing, he said, oh, I just did everything. I got a nutritionist. I was eating good. And, you know, I had a diet. So he has to come down. There's clips of Benavidez when he was young, and he was like kind of a portly kid, you know, in the Pacquiao wildcard gym and stuff like that. So I think weight has always been something that, you know, he has to work to achieve the weight. You guys are looking at it saying I'm wrong because Bivol's buff and David Lemieux, when he's in shape, he just looks tall and lanky. But that's not how weight works. And I've proven that in this video. Debunked. Ego Mythbusters. So the more y'all keep coming with piddly excuses, the more I gotta bust y'all over the head for the misinformation and put out fire unpacked videos like this. If you like videos like this, we unpack coming to you live. Make sure you guys subscribe. In the last 30 days, 50% of the people that watch my videos subscribe. 50% did not subscribe. Now is your reminder, hit the subscribe button. It's very important. I don't have a big company or corporation running the channel. It's really just me. So, and good fans to get and push this organic product. So you guys can help that if you like boxing, so we can reach more people who are interested in the sport of boxing. So that's the mission 2022. As far as the whole Bivol was way too big, Bivol's not even the biggest light heavyweight. Look at Bivol next to Joe Smith Jr. Joe Smith Jr. is a big, hardy dude, you know, big, burly dude, right? For light heavyweight, not Bivol. And again, I've showed that and proved it throughout this video. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. We unpack. Introducing Super Thanks. Right here on the official Boxing Ego YouTube. Super Thanks allows you, the viewers, to show a little bit of extra gratitude, which enables me as a full-time content creator to push out the content you need in the world of boxing. Underneath all the videos, you will see a heart with the $sign in it. You can enter any amount that you find suitable as a super thanks. A brand new interactive and colorful way to get your comments highlighted and noticed by not only myself, but other people on the YouTube platform. Super thanks, a unique and cool way to show and applaud us full-time content creators. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Super thanks. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation. Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster. We working.